Well, good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be here. Uh, one panel leading into the next one. But very happy to be here. Looking forward to a good interaction, exchange between my very esteemed panelists. I'll do a quick introduction for all my panelists and lastly myself. So let me start off with Alessandro, who's to my left. Alessandro, like me, is from EY, ex-EY. I'm present EY. He started his professional career in auditing, joined EY in 1980, made a partner in 1994. Uh, then in 1996, he joined the SAPEM Group, ENI, as the Chief Financial Officer, and went on to become the Chief Financial Officer of the entire group, which he held till December 2012. Led a number of acquisitions, sale of investments, finally represented ENI in the board of directors. In 2013, he joined MAIRE Technimont as the Group Chief Financial Officer and is currently holding the position of the Chief Executive Officer of MAIRE Technimont SPA, amongst a range of other titles that he holds. So that's Alessandro to my left. We've got Vartika to Alessandro's left. Vartika Shukla is the Chairman and Managing Director of Engineers India Limited. You all know that EIL is a global consultancy company, primarily in oil and gas, and widely diversified in other sectors of infrastructure, water, subsurface, and metallurgy. She is the first woman CMD of EIL and has been associated with the company for the past 32 years, steering several new initiatives in the area of biofuels, digitization, energy efficiency, Make in India, etc. The list goes on. She's also part-time chairman of the Certification Engineers International. Mrs. Shukla did her BTech in chemical engineering from IIT Kanpur and is also a certified MBA from the IIM Lucknow. Welcome, Vartika. To Vartika's left, we've got Roel. Roel is the group president of Emerson, based in the European head office in Bar, Switzerland, where he previously held positions of vice president Northern Europe and president Europe. Roel leads several of Emerson's initiatives to support companies in the process and hybrid industries as they navigate increasingly complex and interconnected challenges. Roel also has been with Emerson for over 30 years, progressing through the organization in various management roles. Presently, the vice president of the Refining and Chemical Industry Center he was the vice president of the Refining and Chemical Industry Center before returning to Europe and was then appointed as group president of Emerson in March 2021. Roel holds a Master of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from the Leuven University. And last but not the least is Alex. Alex is the Senior Vice President and Global Head of Crude, Products and Liquids Trading and the UK Country Manager at Equinor. He joined the company in 2017 as the SVP for Global Business Development, where he oversaw mergers, acquisitions, and divestments. Prior to joining Equinor, Alex worked in investment banking and Jefferies, focusing on M&A and financing transactions. He holds a master's degree in engineering from Oxford University. So welcome, Alex. Welcome, all of you. Thank you. It's a real pleasure to have all of you here. And lastly, myself, my name is Neville Dumasia. I look after the industrials and energy vertical in EY in India. I've been in consulting all my life, about 30 odd years. So happy to be here and excited to be having a conversation with this panel. Before I jump into the questions that I have for the panel, let me set a little bit of context so that the questions that are then asked come in light of that context, okay? So we are seeing a very, a very volatile world right now. We are seeing the advent of Mr. Trump back into the United States, where he's actually pulling the United States out of saying, let's not worry about all of this, let's just go drill, baby, drill. So that's where he's headed. Whereas the rest of the world, Europe, Asia, all of them are actually now looking at saying, what can we do to better increase, improve, go more green, go more sustainable, etc. So it's actually a shift where there is like a seesaw that's happening between the West, the furthest West, and thereafterwards the center, Europe and East, which is actually the East and Europe are actually moving more and more towards sustainable production and development. And they are really trying very hard to see how can we talk about decarbonization of hard-to-abate sectors, because that's the most crucial part over there. Even in India, if you notice, our government has set up very ambitious plans. They've said that we've got to get to 500 gigawatts of renewable capacity by 2047. Is that right? Okay. And we are at about 175 gigawatts right now. We are at about 175 gigawatts of renewable energy. And the government is giving multiple initiatives that is being progressively rolled out, National Green Hydrogen Mission, various such PLI schemes that are coming through. The government is really trying very, very hard to make sure that we are moving down this right direction. So in light of this, if everybody, the whole world had realized that saying green is the way to go, decarbonization is the way to go, sustainability is the way to go, then everything would have probably been a little smoother. But we now have situations where some countries will be pushing more towards fossil fuels, whereas some countries will go more green. Some countries like India will actually look at a transition saying we'll also use fossil fuel and thereafter move to green. So in light of that, let me start off the questions. And Alex, maybe the first question is to yourself. Equinor being one of the key oil and gas players globally, and an ambition to reach net zero by 2050 with a short-term target to reduce net carbon intensity of 20% by 2030. What are your views on the initiatives and the levers that can be used to decarbonize the oil and gas sector?
So thank you for the question, and it's good to be here. The target that you quoted there, 20% reduction by 2030, is our Scope 3 intensity target. And the first thing I'd say is that the main thing, or the primary thing we first focus on, is our Scope 1. It's what can we do something directly about, and that's our own emissions. And that target is a 50% reduction by 2030, and we're already a long way on that. And that involves a number of different initiatives for that Scope 1 reduction, from the big eye-catching high investment ones, such as electrification of a number of our production facilities on the Norwegian continental shelf, but right the way through to a manner of how we engineer things, how we look at things, where instead of just optimizing for pure NPV on design of a valve or design of a process system, we're also looking at the CO2 impact in that overall design. So those small things don't grab the headlines, but in aggregate, they make a big, big difference. And of course, those big things that grab the headlines help as well, but usually cost a lot more money. But bit by bit and incrementally, it makes a big difference. I mean, we're proud that our carbon intensity of our upstream is under 7 kilos per BOE. And that compares to an industry average, depending on what source you use, of 30. So we feel we've got the lowest, probably worldwide, but we can go lower, and that's incremental work. If you move then to Scope 3, where we have the 20% reduction by 2030 intensity target, in one way there are a lot more levers. You've got a bigger denominator you can work with. We can build out wind and renewables and increase that denominator, which reduces your intensity. We've got other technologies we can work with. We have the world's first carbon capture, third-party carbon capture facility up and running now in Northern Lights, which can reduce the numerator. So you have many more levers, but you also have many more things that are outside of your control, because we cannot get to net zero on our own. We're big in Norway, but we're tiny in a world system. We can only get to net zero as the world and society also progresses towards net zero, which perhaps comes back to your introduction on, what is the pace in different parts of the world of putting in the regulations, processes, and means for society to transition to net zero.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Roel, may I get you in? Decarbonization strategies for hard-to-abate sectors, petrochemicals, heavy-duty transportation, metal mining, massive challenge. What do you think are the most promising technological advancements that can drive emission reduction in these sectors? And how is your industry preparing for these changes?
Well, thanks, Neville. Thanks for the question, and very happy to be here today. I think in your question, the key word is technology. I think technology, and more particularly automation technology, is one of the biggest levers that companies can pull on their journey to net zero. We've seen a lot of developments in that space, rapid developments over the last couple of years, and companies today have better insights, better control, better analytics, that will allow their operators to make the right decisions to operate at higher efficiency levels, to reduce energy waste, to reduce emissions. I think at Emerson, as one of the global leaders in automation technologies, we are in a unique position to help accelerate that journey to net zero for our customers. Over the years, we have built a very broad portfolio to meet the automation needs of a state-of-the-art plant today that goes from new sensor technologies to get a better insight of what's happening in the plant, over predictive analytics, digital twins, very important, AI technologies, machine learning, and those technologies will allow you to simulate and optimize processes. And I think those two words are key words. Simulation and optimization is key to drive down the emissions and energy usage. But when we talk about net zero, it's not only about decarbonizing existing processes or brownfield plants, but we also see another very important development is the rapid advancements and adoptions of new energy sources like biofuels, hydrogen, renewables. And we see companies that are active in that space, they usually build plants with a very strong digital foundation. They don't want to talk about digital transformation. They want to be born digital is the term that they use. So they apply those technologies, and right from day one, they see the optimization. And they're also ready to evolve to an autonomous operation over time.
Okay, thank you. So automation, stimulation, and automation, okay. Vartika, let me get you in. EIL has a net zero target by 2035, and not only are you working on your own internal targets, but you're also facilitating the decarbonization agenda for several of your clients, for several energy companies, several other industries as well. In your experience in providing value addition to your clients, cost savings, energy efficiency, emission reductions, etc., can you share with all of us some of the examples that you've actually been delivering to your clients in this decarbonization agenda?
Thank you, Neville, and it's a delight to be here at IEW, and particularly with a panel which is all of us are committed towards the target for net zero, not just for us, but also providing services and products to our customers. So as an engineering company, we are also a technology company. And while we implement projects, we also look at bringing for our customers state-of-the-art technologies in all areas, and in particular towards net zero, two showcase projects that we are executing for our end-use customers. One is a second-generation biofuel project, which is based on agri-feedstock, wherein our teams worked from the initial stages, taking up the technology from a low TRL level to commercialization. This is based on Chempolis technology for our customer ABRPL. And it has had many firsts in terms of challenges of putting together a supply chain of equipment, to putting together the design practices and design features to actually implement it such that we have a seamless project implementation cycle. And I'm happy to share that that project is almost ready for commissioning. Pre-commissioning is in process. So that's one of the value-added service that we have brought on the table for the industry. On a similar note, our target as a nation to bring in 1% sustainable aviation fuel blended to ATF. We have the first bio-ATF plant based on HEFA technology with our partners CSIR IIP, which is under implementation in one of the southern refineries. There too, the gradation of the efforts that we've put in is right from the lab level up to bringing it up for implementation. And these are just two examples in terms of greening the transportation fuels. But in terms of other services, low-hanging fruits like energy efficiency, in the existing assets, putting in new technologies which reduce carbon footprint, looking at new technologies in a manner which, when implemented, will have reduction in emissions. These are some of the key things that, as an organization, we are committed to bring for the clientele that we serve, not just in India, but also on a global scale.
Can I ask a follow-on question?
Yes, of course.
I'm sure when you try some of these new technologies, there are bound to be maybe lapses or delays in project timelines, costs, etc. How do you manage that with clients? How does the client come along with you on the journey saying it's all right, we're going to experiment this? How does it really work for you?
This is actually this is a worldwide challenge.
Yep.
It's not just region specific. It's not technology specific, because technology plays a role up until you have decided on the parameters to implement it. Thereafter, it is a regular expediting of equipments, working at sites, making sure that none of the stakeholders in the entire project fall short of what their expectation is to put it up. So whether we work here or we work across the globe, we believe and we work together with our stakeholders, our client, and projects wherein there is very deep involvement of the two sides and the relationship is more kind of integrated in finding solutions, because every project, wherever we go, has different kind of solutions, different kind of problems and different solutions. So innovating on the go, meeting a path wherein we can, sometimes bring out the stakeholders to actually perform, to implement, give their services on time, holds the key to successful project implementation. There are many models of implementation. Some are very suited to a certain region, certain technology, certain clientele. So there is a lot of, parameters to the mix of successful project implementation. And we do provide that end-to-end kind of discussion and service to everyone.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Alessandro, let me pull you in. In India, you're really looking at expanding your operations, particularly in the area of circular carbon, sustainable technologies. In your views on the adoption curve from Indian clients, how well are Indian clients adapting to this? Do you see challenges? Do you see issues? And if so, how are you addressing them?
First of all, thank you very much for this extremely interesting question. And let me provide with an answer which comes from our direct experience on the domestic Indian market, based on our radar screen, on the dialogue that we have on a daily basis with clients and potential clients. I have to confirm that I am a little bit positive about the acceptance of the local community about the solutions which can be introduced in order to move progressively toward the decarbonisation, the sustainability. There are several factors which confirm this positive trend, and among those factors, let me emphasize just a few of them. First of all, there is a growing awareness about, from the total community, economical, the society, about the themes of the sustainability. And also because India have targeted, if I well remember, 500 megawatt of renewable power by 2030. So it is a very ambitious target. So this can be achieved only to the extent that there is the cooperation of all the actors of the society. And then growing policy support, so tax incentives, subsidies, all of them moves in the direction to incentivize the adoptions of innovative solutions towards the sustainability and decarbonization. Then useless to say that most of the local companies privately owned, state-owned companies, all of them, they are used not to compete only inside India, in the local market, but they are used, of course, to compete on the international market. And it is useless to say that there is even a growing pressure from clients, stakeholders, to cope more and more with the sustainability criteria. So it is unavoidable that also due to the international pressure, it is almost imperative to pay attention more and more progressively to these elements. And then finally, but of course is not the last one, is the technology maturity. In particular, over the last few years, the technology which technologies which have been developed to serve better and better the energy transition, they are able, these technologies, to deserve a more efficient and effective industrial processes, and at the same time, a lot of efforts have been paid in order to reduce the cost of the capex to introduce these solutions, and then also the running cost. And of course, this element makes possible not only for the large conglomerate, the large corporation to adopt this type of solution, but make possible also for small, medium-sized enterprises to have granted the access to these innovative solutions, considering that in particular in India, but not only in India, but for sure it is very important for the Indian market, small and medium-sized companies represent the real backbone of the Indian economy. So having solutions which have accessible also for these medium, small size enterprises, for sure it is represent one of the most critical elements to fasten the process to introduce sustainability solutions.
Thank you so much. My next question comes back to you, Alex. It's about capital allocation, especially when you're a company which is both in the fossil fuel or the old energy, shall we, for lack of a better word, say old energy and fossil fuels, and new energy. So what are the primary challenges that your company faces while transitioning from fossil fuels, and how do these challenges impact cost and profitability? Additionally, what are your capital allocation plans? Any priority areas that you are focusing for investments?
Well, you asked the question at a very pertinent time for Equinor. We had our capital markets update, our annual sort of strategy update to the investors last week, and we announced that we were reallocating some of the capital that we had towards renewables and low carbon back towards oil and gas. I don't think that came as a shock to any of our investors. Indeed, when investors looked at a lot of the other of our peers who had already made such steps, a lot of investors were asking, why is it taking you so long? That doesn't mean our destination is different, but it means the pace and the sort of route that we get there is can change. And I think, one of the things when I come to India, I love coming to India, come once or twice a year and coming to conferences like this. The first thing that's good to get out of my miserable European area where industry is dropping and gas price just at $18 an MMBTU, and things are struggling. There's no growth. China, relatively similar in some ways. And you come to India and it's new business we talk about. It's new supply contracts for growth in the future. And it's really uplifting. And I would say India is at the exception at the moment rather than the common when I look elsewhere in the world and try and sell our products. But the other thing I've noticed coming and plotting over time is that the amount of talk on transition is steadily growing. This year more than last year, more than the year before. More people are addressing it. And in your introduction, of course, you talked about the US, but the other observation is in Europe it's not anymore either. So Europe, go back 3-4 years, dare I say, was rather idealistic rather than pragmatic on the process. And we always, even as Equinor said, when will Europe become more pragmatic to decarbonisation? Cost matters. This will turn at some point. We can't every time we come out make a new target that's higher and higher and higher and just in an arms race to compete on who has the highest target. At some point it will turn. But we did not predict how quickly it would turn. Now, I'm not saying that decarbonisation and sustainability is off the table, but certainly the direction of travel now is different to what I see in India, albeit from a much higher level, but it's coming down as India moves up to focus on it more. And why is it? Really, I mean, everyone will have an interpretation, but my interpretation of it is its cost. So when you're blending 1% SAF into your jet fuel, the fact that that SAF costs 8 times more doesn't really matter. Doesn't hit. You've got 99% of the old stuff to blend with the 1% of the new stuff. You spread it on the consumers, no one really notices. But when you get to 2% and 5% and 8% of biodiesel into your diesel or whatever it may be, suddenly the consumer starts to notice. And the consumer will drive further to another petrol station if the price is a penny a litre less. Sometimes they'll spend more on driving than they save on their petrol. So when the consumer starts to notice, then it starts to bite. And previously in Europe, we've had this piece where we've not really realized the cost. People don't feel carbon. They talk about abatement costs. This abatement cost is $400 a ton. We can bring it down to $100 a ton. But if you don't know whether you emit 10 tons a year or 10 kilos a year, you could be saying anything. It's 100 wallets per park, and we can reduce it to 20 wallets per park. It's just numbers. But when it actually starts to hit, affordability becomes important. And I hope and believe that will actually set us on a better, more pragmatic, steady path in Europe, where we have to balance all three things. Energy security, big point in Europe now, of course. Sustainability, of course, but balance with cost. And it's those three together and finding the right balance that's the route forward. I've actually forgotten the question you asked me at the start, but there's my answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Maybe I'll get in Roel and Alessandro on one question that was around cross-sector collaboration, industries. How can industries learn from each other? Manufacturing, shipping, aviation, oil and gas, power and utilities, etc. Any such examples that you could share with our audience as to how your organization, Emerson, and your organization, MAIRE, are actually working to bring this to life?
Yeah, I think collaboration is key, obviously, to find those solutions to bring the cost down. One of my favorite saying is that innovation quite often starts if you combine two things that already exist. And so we engage with governments, we engage with industry sectors. We are active in a number of domains, and we have a very deep, meaningful conversations with those groups around, obviously, innovation, policy options, how can we scale up novel solutions, and what are the critical strategies to tackle on our road to net zero. A couple of quick examples of areas that we are active in. We are engaging with the United Nations Global Compact for the business ambition for 1.5 degree Celsius. In another area, we are an active member in the Sustainability Association. That's part of the Institute of Manufacturing. Here in India, we opened in 2022 the Emerson Center of Excellence for Sustainability at the Terry School of Advanced Studies. And last example I would like to mention is we collaborate a lot with the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, on a number of projects, on a number of research projects. One example I want to give is the design of a catalyst containing industry-ready reactor to facilitate the transition of the conversion of CO2 to CO. And then last but not least, we were also very active on the last COP29 in Baku in Azerbaijan, where we participated in a number of innovation forums and in the Hydrogen Transition Summit.
Thank you. Alessandro? Anything from your side, Alessandro?
Sorry?
Anything from your side on the cross-industry collaborations?
For sure, I agree. I agree what you were saying because the technological evolution is paramount important. Is one of the most important pillars which can satisfy the requirements of the market. Of course, in many situations, we are talking about novel technologies. Novel technology means that there are no major experience. Most likely, in some situations, those technologies have not been yet proved at a commercial scale. So there could be, in particular, the financial market could not be ready to finance the introduction of the new technology. So technology for sure is the proper answer to the process, but it is useless to say that there could be some elements which could play against the easier and faster implementation of those solutions. In particular, as I was saying, something which we are normally facing is the financial cost, which represent a real barrier for the introduction in the most wider way the solution for the decarbonization. Because of course you have to face the cost today, which can be recovered over a longer period. So financial community must be ready to finance, to support those investments, but only to the extent the technology has been already proved and also the regulatory framework is stable. There are no uncertainties, because otherwise, of course, it could be extremely difficult.
That's right. I actually was at a event with private equity, and there are a bunch of private equity houses, and their feedback was that there is capital available for a good idea. And as long as you correctly pointed out, as long as it's a solution which is proven on the ground, etc., there is good capital available to fund it. Yeah. Vartika, last question for you. I know we are about a minute away from closure, but there's a lot of talk in India about this green hydrogen, right? And all the hard-to-abate sectors, you take oil and gas, petchem, etc., all of them have plans for green hydrogen production, adoption. Anything that you can share with us on the status of the techno-commercial feasibility? Because all our analysis, which we've done with clients, indicates that getting the cost of green hydrogen down to an acceptable level for industry is very, very crucial before industry takes it up full scale. Anything that you're doing from an EIL perspective, which actually you can share light with for the panel or for the audience as well?
Sure. So thank you, Neville. It's I think it's an area wherein we are talking and we are also doing, and there is lots more to do. Let me begin by giving some examples. You know, if we ever look back and saw the industry of solar PV, probably about 20-25 years back, we had the same conversation. Whether it is going to be viable, is it going to break through? You look at the electronics, you look at the Moore's law, it's a similar story. So it is a matter of time wherein we have better technologies, more efficient, more cost-effective technologies, wherein there will be a fair play in terms of the competitiveness of not just green hydrogen, but maybe bio-ATF, maybe second-generation ethanol, in competing with the other players in terms of cost-effectiveness and customer acceptability in terms of the prices. Just look at the investments which have happened in the last 2 years on a global scale. The investments in conventional oil and gas are virtually half of what has been invested world over in green technologies, in green fuels. Let's say last year we had, in 24, the investments were about $1 billion in the fossil fuel area and about $2 billion in the green technologies and the non-fossil areas. And it's been driven by people like us who are looking at net zero targets, corporates who are looking at, shareholders who are looking at the company profile as to where they are positioning themselves in the future in terms of their association, their commitment towards the climate objectives as a whole. Coming to green hydrogen, it's a very big play in the same story of decarbonization, and particularly in the sector that we are looking at, in oil and gas, or in fertilizer, or in ammonia. It's a game changer in terms of lowering the footprint, or in terms of carrier of hydrogen when we look at ammonia. So, and the crucial element in that space of green hydrogen are essentially two. One is the cost of power, which will have to be looked at from a perspective of not just the generation, but distribution, transmission, charges, what kind of stability we have, and factors which play into the cost and availability of power. And the second is the technology per se. So now we talk of just electrolyzers at this point of time, but there are other new kids on the block in terms of technology. And as was mentioned, as investors, do we have an outlay of an R&D budget? Why just look at technologies which are ready to be commercialized? Why not invest in innovations and ideas which are coming up, which will mature as commercial technologies? And the industry in general, all across the globe, have actually worked on that, and it's still working on that. So in my view, in our view, we think the stage at which green hydrogen is today is work in progress. There have been implemented projects, and EIL as a company has implemented a 10 megawatt green hydrogen capacity for GAIL. We have looked at blending of green hydrogen in pipelines, which is critical in terms of the the acceptability of the existing infrastructure to take in a percentage of hydrogen into the system in terms of end use cases, whether it is whatever kind of industry that we have. And there are many other feasibilities in green ammonia space which is being carried out. India as a country has already earmarked about close to $2.5 billion worth of incentives for enhancement R&D and putting technology on the ground. As a nation, we are committed to steering this, and our belief is it's a matter of time where we see the maturity, whether it is electrolyzer or any other waste, usage of waste to generate hydrogen. There are multiple pathways to getting to green hydrogen. And I'm sure when they compete with each other in the space that is provided, we will have a solution, if not tomorrow, but in the near future.
Thank you. Time's up. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your thoughts candidly. Thank you for participating. Thank you for the audience for being so patient and listening in. Thank you all, and that concludes our session. Look forward to